Hello, welcome back everyone to another episode of Fast Times Garage. If you've been following along with the project here that you see that I'm sitting in, we are working on doing some bracing today on the unibody structure so that way we can successfully get it mounted up to the body cart that I have purchased, and it is waiting its turn to be mounted onto the car. So we need to make sure this car is structurally somewhat sound in terms of keeping it from flexing any more than it already probably has, because we already know the car is not square. So let's get to it here, and I'm going to show you guys what we got working on today. So what we've already started working on this morning was the front brace for the shock towers of this vehicle. We all know that the passenger side shock tower is completely compromised, totally ruined, trashed, cracked, destroyed. So I made a bar that literally goes between the two towers that fits perfect. All right, so here's a better view of what we got going on here. As we all know, this thing had a pretty bad wreck. Shock tower's completely destroyed. It's cracking and it's also peeling away from the frame rail itself. I have this thing perfectly mocked up and level inside where the engine cradle would be. And the reason for doing this, because of how structurally compromised this is, the body cart mounts to the lower control arm position points on both sides. So I don't want any flexing or anything like that going on. So with this being in place, this shock tower will help support this shock tower from collapsing or having any further issues, in theory. So it's perfectly level. I'm quite astonished with how good of a job I actually did, considering the fact I'm not really much of a fabricator per se. I don't do this very often, so this is my first real big project and I'm learning as I go. So bear with me, because I'm gonna probably booger the heck out of the welds on this thing, so it'll be quite the spectacle to watch. We have our X brace in the back of the car where the rear section of the floor is. I'm going to brace it up on the top side of the B-pillar on both sides, as well as tying it into the floor. So this will definitely help with making sure this car stays structurally somewhat intact, and consider not letting it get any out of more square. The back of the car is the biggest concern. So if I have extra metal, I'm gonna weld something in, but I also have this giant crack where the tail section of the trunk pan is, and the frame rail is completely cracked all the way through. So I might weld a bar in from one side to the next. That way it helps it kind of stay rigid. But the next thing we got against us is this. Both sides have a clean crack all the way through the frame rail right at the bump stop. So I can clean the metal up around it, that area, and I can go ahead and I can weld that up and be able to hopefully help out in terms of keeping it stiff. That way it's not going to flex while it sits on the body cart going down the road on its way up to Oregon. Not perfect, but it does look good. It's going to tie the car together. So I got, like I said, it's going to the floor on one side, and it's going to go up to the other side of the vehicle on the higher side where the B-pillar, or this is a postless car, but I'm going to call this the B-pillar. Okay, so I got the X brace mocked up in the back here. I got all the cuts done. So now all I got to do is get to the welding portion. Now that we got the metal cut and ready to be mocked up in place, which we showed earlier that it's perfectly level in there, I'm actually amazed at my own work. I'm actually pretty astonished how good that turned out in terms of how perfect it fits in between the shock towers, and the angle of the cut's perfect. So now we're gonna be taking some paint off of the part of the shock tower. I'll probably take about 3 or 4 inches off of the paint on both sides. Nice clean metal with my tool. We're gonna do that for the inside of the car as well. I want to move the bar. We're going to grind away here. I noticed overnight it wasn't as this far down to where this hole is right here in the panel. So I might have to readjust it a little bit, which I can. I got room and leverage to kind of maneuver this a little bit, because I think it shifted a little bit since I put it here, because it wasn't sitting that low. It's sitting a little bit higher than that. So we'll move that out of the way. Let's take my tool. they put on this car. Gross. Scrape it off a little bit. Okay, so we got the areas nice and clean now. So now we can actually attempt to weld on the engine bay portion where the shock towers are, as well as inside the cabin of the Mustang itself. We're gonna do the X-brace in there. So stay tuned because you don't wanna miss this part of the video. I'm sure it's gonna be wild because I suck at welding. So let's see how well I do. Alright, we got ourselves nice clean metal now. I got all the oil residue off, cleaned it up a little bit, you know. Not that it really matters, I mean it's just a brace, but now we can get to welding here because I got fresh metal here. I do have to sand off some paint on the bottom where the cross member is, so that way I have a good place to put my ground for my welder. And we're gonna get this set into place. Got my gloves, got my helmet, and I got everything set up in the place here. Let's give this a shot. Bear with me. This is my first time doing this since I was 18 years old, and I had a high school auto shop teacher who taught me a lot, but I never could get the hang of welding. So I got an auto darkening helmet. When I was in school, they didn't have the auto darkening helmets available, so that was probably one of my drawbacks because I really didn't like flipping it down and flipping it up, flipping it down to always know where I'm starting at. So I got an auto darkening helmet. Let's see how good I do here. Well, I think my weld is solid, but it's not the prettiest. Definitely need more practice, which will come in time. I can grind that down and actually wouldn't probably look that bad. But still, this is only a brace. It's nothing more than that, but I mean, it's solid. All right, just to share the type of welds I did on the interior side, look at that monstrosity. The metal's really thin on the square stock as well as that part of the post where I decided to weld it to, and I blew right through the metal a bunch of times. Up there, down there. This is actually my nicest weld, is right there to me because it laid out real nice. It's not too much splatter, but then you have that monstrosity over there and then over there as well. I just couldn't figure out the wire speed situation with the thinner metal. I had it on all sorts of different settings, minimum heat, and it still kept just blowing right through the metal. So whatever. I live and I learn. I know I'm not the best. Yep, those are gorgeous, aren't they? Look at that. Beautiful welds by yours truly here. Alrighty, so today I had to talk my wife into the reason why I needed another tool. Well, success. I came home with it. Daytona, low profile, high lift jack. I also had a coupon, so yay for Harbor Freight and having a decent price floor jack, so that way I can get this car up in the air on these massive stands, so then we can then transfer it to the body cart finally. So let's get to this. I'm gonna open the box up and we're gonna go from there. We have our jack stand set aside over here. This is the height that I want it to be at. This is at 26 inches, which body cart is that tall with the casters on it. So I have my new floor jack here. I have some wood, because I'm still gonna need it because the jack only goes 24 1/4, whereas my old jack only went to 18 inches max height. So now I need only one piece of wood, hopefully, here to get the car high enough and slide these underneath. I am lifting it from the center point of the car because I don't feel like it would be a good idea to lift it from the front frame rail. It might not pick the car up right because there's really not much weight left in this car, and I don't want it to tip one way or another because the only thing holding it up on the other side are two other jack stands. So I'm going to lift from the center point. I think the back is going to weigh more, so I don't want it to tip backwards and fall off my stands. So I'm going to lift it from the center here and then put the stands under it. So here we go. This car is fighting me right now because the footprint of the 12-ton stands are so big, it gets in the way of the casters, which I don't want to take the casters off and then bolt them up once the thing is hanging. I mean, I could do that, but I don't want to. I'd rather just be able to put one single bolt through on each side, put the nut on, zip it together, be done with it, right? So it's proving itself for a one-man person because that auto twirly, I guess you can call it that. The auto twirler is so damn heavy. It's like picking up a hitch, like a piece of a hitch basically. It's what it is. It's heavy, and for one person to do it with casters on it and it's swiveling around, it's a pain in the butt. So I got the car up high enough, but the footprints of these jack stands are so massive that it's just proving itself hard to do right now, one person here, because I'm trying to line everything up and do it and whatnot. This is the kind of stuff that people don't show, but I'm struggling right now being one person here doing this all by myself. So yeah, let's see if I can do it now. This is proving itself real difficult. Doing this by yourself, it sucks sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. It does help when you have some people around you that can help you out sometimes, but man, doing this, I'm hurting. Getting up and down off my knees all the time. Shoot. That was not an actual joke. You can keep your mind out of the gutter on that one. There it is, folks. Up in the air. Cart's dangling away right now. Haven't set the cart yet down on the ground. Got to put the center link in. Bolts are in, just got to tighten them up once that center link is in, might I say. But there we go. Look at that. Almost there. This is a lot of hard work actually by yourself to get this thing put together and mounted up properly. I mean, I probably could have done it a different way. That would have made it easier for me. But my thought process was to leave the cart with the casters attached already, put the single bolts through instead of putting it together while it's on the car. I figured putting it together as an assembly on each end would be easier for me to do, but it's kind of proven itself difficult. So, but it's all up in there. This car's lifted up pretty high. I can't really tell in the video, but this thing's lifted up pretty dang high, I'm not gonna lie. Got my tape measure. We're gonna measure the distance between the intersection of this, where I would call it this is basically like a trailer hitch design. I'm gonna measure from that to that. That way, both sides are gonna have an even distance between each other. That way, this thing's gonna have even weight distributed amongst itself. So let's go ahead and let's get that measured up. Okay, we'll call that good. All right, let's tighten them up. Okay, got the bolts tight there, tight over there. Now what we gotta do is, before we tighten the ones up there, we gotta get the center link from the front of the car to the back section put in and then tightened up first, and then I can tighten up all the other bolts. And then we should be good to go to drop the car on the ground. And hopefully it doesn't fall apart on me. We shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Ford Mustang with a body cart now attached to it, which is pretty cool. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the stands out from underneath it, and we're gonna lower the car down onto the casters on the cart, and we're gonna see what it looks like. Finally, after all this time. I'm exhausted right now. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to get this done so that way I can give you guys a video within every 2 weeks that I'm really trying to shoot for, because I'll be honest, working a full-time job, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, 9-hour, 10-hour days, and then coming and doing this at night, it's draining me right now. So I'm really trying to get this content out for you. So hope you like it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you do. I really do appreciate it. So does the car. So let's go ahead and let's get the car lowered down. Look at that. How cool is that? All right, we got ourselves a Mustang on a body cart. Whole thing moves. Oh, this is fun. All right, there's the back of the cart with the center link attached, front to rear, tighten down, and there's your front. Pretty cool. Like a kid in the candy store right now. Pretty cool. Pain in the butt to do, but cool. Welds are doing okay. Didn't see anything break on my welds, especially this one in the back, because this one was pretty boogered up with my welding skills here. So still attached. We're good. Well, that's gonna wrap up this episode here for the 69 Mustang. I feel super accomplished right now because I got the body cart finally underneath the car. I've had it in a box for months. So I saw it in the box and I said, you know what? I'll eventually get the thing mounted up to the bottom of the car and we'll get the car mobile again on some casters. Finally that happened, but another big thing happened during this episode. I learned a lot about welding and about myself. I'm not very good at it. So we're gonna take this as a learning experience and I'm gonna get better at it and progress and eventually get to the point of where I feel proud about my welds, because it works, but aesthetically, they don't look good. They're not pleasing to the eye. So that's okay though. Next part of the process, I'm gonna get the car outside. We're gonna pressure wash it down, get it nice and clean, get everything cleaned up perfect, you know, in terms of getting all the dirt, grime, anything off the bottom of the car, so I can push it out, do that. But then after that, I'm also gonna take the doors off eventually, and I'm gonna weld in the brace bars for the doors. So, stay tuned. Please like and subscribe if you do like this video, and check out the rest of my channel. I really do appreciate it, and everyone who has supported me thus far. So stay tuned for the next episode. Fast Times Garage.